No. Bang! South Carolina wins their 19th straight game against LSU in women's basketball, 83-77. It is a big, big win. It's our live instant overreaction to the win. There's actually more stuff to talk about. Been kind of a banner day for South Carolina athletics so far. Got a big win on Michi Johnson's last second three against Ole Miss if LSU loses now in men's basketball, that means that South Carolina will not be the 16th seed into SEC tournament next week. But also got a big win in baseball against Princeton, come from behind win, which is just a whole other thing. We're not going to talk baseball in this one. We're going to talk about women's basketball. We're going to talk about the job that Dawn Staley and this team did today. Came from behind. We had the preview show this morning, which two of my friends, Corey Diaz and Matthew Bruni from Baton Rouge, do a tremendous job of covering LSU athletics and especially women's basketball. And I was kind of shocked talking to them about what they thought, how this game was going to play out. Bruni was a little bit more closer to where I was leaning, which was probably right around, single digits in terms of predicting the score. Corey was a little bit more bold, saying it could be a 25-point win. I thought this game was going to play out, not to pat myself on the back, but kind of exactly how it did. It felt like LSU, and the way this team is built for LSU, they are very, very deep. And I thought they would come out inspired. They would come at you in waves early on. And I said, don't be surprised if you see a first half deficit for South Carolina. Now, that should have been actually surprising. And I wish I would have done my homework on just how surprising that would have been, because they did trail at half. They did trail by 4, and they trailed at half for only the second time all season. The previous time they had trailed before that was against Texas, and they lost that game. It's the only other time all season they had trailed at halftime. We've got Jason Height says, Coach Dawn is amazingly awesome. That is right. She is amazingly awesome. And so is the entire team today. They come back in the second half, and the way, like I said, the way I thought it would probably play out was when you start getting into winning time, you start getting late in the second half, and you start talking about like the fourth quarter, if that game's close, once South Carolina, if they were able to pull ahead at all and start extending that run a little bit or extending that lead, I kind of felt like you would see an LSU team that is a really good LSU team and a really good program, but they do not know how to win against South Carolina. It's like, that sounds more rude than it is, but they do not know how to win against South Carolina. They know how to win against almost anyone else. They beat Texas this year, right? Like, they've won a national championship in the past 3 years. They do not know how to beat South Carolina. And if you need any example of that, it is 19 straight that they have lost. They have not lost to them since 2012. Since I think that would be the first Obama administration. Like, that's crazy. And so that's how long it's been. January of 2012. Yeah, that's wild. So 14 years since they have had a win over South Carolina. Who were the key players? Well, I'll tell you what, going into it, you know what, the last game, Tessa and Raven Johnson each had, they combined for 40 points, right? That's right. Also, yeah, congrats to our men's team with a big win. Listen, Ole Miss sucks, but like I always say this, we're going to celebrate the wins. And that was just a really damn good way to close out the regular season. We're going to talk about that in a second. I'm glad you're fired up, Jason. I'm fired up too. So what was different this time versus last time? From South Carolina's standpoint, Raven Johnson, Tessa Johnson, well, they didn't combine for 40. They only combined for 33. But they were fantastic. They were pretty much your entire offense from beyond the arc. Okot, we talked about how instrumental she's been offensively from deep as towards the last couple weeks of the season. She didn't really – she only went 0 for 1. She didn't attempt a lot of threes. Really, no one did besides those two. You made 7 on the day out of 17. 6 of them were from those two with Tessa and Raven. Raven Johnson was fantastic, led all scores with 22. The story was kind of, like Tanaya Lotson, man, like the first half, she had 13 points in the first half. I think she had 10 in the first quarter. She was awesome all day, finished with 19. And then the big story was this, and Dawn Staley highlighted this at the end of the game in the postgame conversation. At halftime, you were getting out rebounded by 9. Like you were -9 in the rebounding column to LSU. And again, you're down by 4, and it just felt like it was very hard for them to it wasn't like an insurmountable lead, obviously, but it felt like it was one of those things. It's like, man, they're just getting there's some uncharacteristic things that are happening, and also really from both sides. Like LSU was playing really, really well, and they played really well all game. Like this is, as much as I want to come on here, because I know this is a heated rivalry, and that's probably poor phrasing with the Netflix thing, but since it's a rivalry nonetheless. That's crazy. Jason says she's made 8 of the last 10 from 3. That's insane. I mean, what a like. I want to dunk on LSU, metaphorically speaking, obviously, because I can't dunk. I know that shocks a lot of you. I want to dunk on LSU because you've beaten them 19 straight times. I don't think it's a rivalry anymore, for sure. I mean, like you beat them every single time you lace them up, every single time. But that being said, that game was awesome. Like that game was incredible from start to finish on both sides. I thought both sides played really, really well. I kept saying I thought the difference was going to be, what I thought Grace Knox and Bella Hines, the 2 freshmen, the run that they would get in this game in comparison to the last one, because I think they both played really well, especially Knox. Knox is going to be a force. It's the reason why she's one of the top players in the country coming out of high school. But she ends up playing 22 minutes, only had 7 points, 4 rebounds, but Bella Hines only had 1 minute. Like, so I was off on that. The familiar face that has played really, really well for most of the season and scored however many 20-point games in a row. Malaysia Fulwiley was incredible. And I hate to kind of pick her out, but it makes sense, obviously, because, she played here and left here for a grass being greener type situation where it wasn't. And it resulted in a phenomenal performance by her. 24 points. She had 4 assists. I think she only had 1 steal. That's kind of surprising. I thought she had more than 1 steal. Couple of turnovers, but she played fantastic. Then you look at what South Carolina was able to do. 4 of your 5 starting players were in double digits. Joyce Edwards, much, much better this time around. Remember the last game against LSU, she came out, I think she only had 10 points or 11 points and 1 rebound. Tonight, 18 points, 11 rebounds, much different. Okot still down low, didn't score in double digits. The only starter not to score in double digits, but also had 13 rebounds to her 8 points. Like I said, Tessa Johnson had 11, Tania had 19, and Raven Johnson, player of the game, and one of the best players in the country, really, 22 points. Kim Mulkey's a blonde witch. I love Kim Mulkey, though. I know that's an unpopular opinion. I know it is. I feel like if she was the coach at South Carolina, we would love her. Jason's on a roll. I love this. I love the chiming in. We don't have as big of an audience as we do for the football games, but we have just as much passion, which I absolutely love. How this game played out, like I said, you were down 9. You were 9, minus 9 on the rebounds at halftime. You end up +1, and you end up out rebounding LSU in the second half. I mean, the outstanding performance in the second half, and again, down the stretch when you needed it most. She didn't have a bunch of turnovers. There was some sloppy play, a little like from both sides at times early. And I got to say, man, that as great of a win as this was for South Carolina, tip your cap to LSU. I don't, going back, like I know you had the double-digit win against them. I think it was 2025 at home. You beat them by 7 on the road, which is a really impressive win and probably the most hostile environment at any point in this season in the country, like I think for anyone. This felt like a little bit of a home game. That crowd was rocking in Greenville. They were fired up. So to get the win there, and I know you only won by 6. You covered the spread, by the way. That was big for some of us. No, but they win by 6. It just felt like this was the closest game that these two had played in a while for 40 minutes at least. Like it was back and forth, and every single time you kept thinking South Carolina was going to make a run or go on a run and extend the lead. I don't think it ever got over 8 points in the second half. I mean, it was a really, really well-played game from both sides. But again, this is what South Carolina does, and this is what they do, especially to LSU, which is they know how to win late in games. You talk about like one of the most interesting stats I thought of the entire game that ESPN threw up there was, this is an LSU team under Kim Mulkey that in all of their other games that they've played outside of the ones against South Carolina. So like they've played 6 before tonight against South Carolina. They're 0-6 in those games. All the other games are averaging like 84.7 points. Against South Carolina, that number drops down 19 points per game to like 65 points per game, which is crazy. And they were able to score over that this time, right? But again, when they needed it and they needed to like keep their foot on the gas, you have a lead by 4 points. You have a 4-point lead at halftime. And what does South Carolina do right out of the gates in the second half? They go on a run, and they end up outscoring them by 9 in the third quarter to take the lead back and lead by 5 going into the fourth. It really felt like towards the end of the third quarter they were going to have a chance to extend that lead. I honestly thought they might go on a run to get into double digits. That didn't happen. Again, credit LSU. But this South Carolina team showed once again they know how to win. 31 wins on the season, 15-1 in the SEC. That doesn't even include what you've done against Texas in the non-conference, and I don't think it includes this game. I could be wrong though, but they just have been phenomenal in against this conference in what is the deepest conference in America by far. Remember, LSU is a 4 seed in this tournament. They're the 6th seed in the country. I'm not that opposed to what you're saying, Jason, about the NIL. We're gonna have to save it for another episode, but I do think you're right. I'll tell you what, Jada Richard was incredible for them as well. The bigger thing, and this is one of the things that I think is most interesting about this team versus others in the past for South Carolina and Dawn Staley especially. Dawn Staley has really done a phenomenal job of just recruiting the hell out of college, or sorry, out of high school women's basketball, right? Like they just, I mean, you had the joke last year from Kim Mulkey, which was, I don't think I've ever seen a team with 10 McDonald's All-Americans. I mean, there's no shortage of talent on this team. But in the past, what you've seen is the team getting it done with a lot of help off the bench, right? That's not been the case this year. It was not the case today. You scored 83 points, only 5 came from the bench, and I thought it was kind of not just impressive, but it was kind of brought or highlighted by the fact that we didn't even see Turner Beast, the incredible freshman from France. She didn't have a single minute logged. You had Makir McDaniel and Dowda that came off the bench, and only one of them logged double-digit minutes. I mean, it was very much – I mean, Joyce Edwards didn't come off the floor. She played all 40 minutes. She was one of 2 players in the game, Jada Richard being the other one. And then you had 3 of your other 4 starters that had over 32 minutes apiece. It was a team win for sure, but this team, I think you have your right 5 that you go out there with, and you know that you can win games against elite competition with just those 5 if you have to. And that's exactly what today was. And again, I think the concern I had going into this game was, can South Carolina pull away and extend leads? And that didn't happen, right? Again, I don't think the lead ever got to more than 8. And when it did, it felt like it was gone within a couple seconds, right? This game was very much within 5 points either way the entire 40 minutes. That's what it felt like. It was a very close game. But even when you don't have that, and you don't have the ability to extend the lead, to pull away, or anything like that, I mean, every time they hit a big shot, it felt like LSU hit another one. Every time I think when they had the 8-point lead, LSU came right back down the court and hit a 3. I think it was from Michaela Williams, hit a 3 to pull back within 5. I mean, they just traded blows for 40 minutes. And I think that was even more impressive, because you want to have this kind of win under your belt going into the NCAA tournament. They're going to be a 1 seed. That's locked up. Even if they lose tomorrow to what I would assume be Texas. Texas is it Texas? Yes, Texas and Ole Miss play tonight in the other semifinal game in Greensville. Even if they lose tomorrow, which we'll get to that later, they still should have a 1 seed locked up. Not super worried about that. But you want to have a win like this under your belt when you don't have, like, when it's not clicking on all cylinders from like top to bottom with the bench players, like, or it's not going your way where it's like their shots aren't missing a ton. Because let me see this here. LSU shot, I mean, they were only 33% from deep. Malaysia was 2 of 8, but 44% from the field. That matched what South Carolina did. South Carolina just ended up being better from 3, even though both teams ended up with 7 threes apiece. It felt like it was, you had your A- game, and the team you were playing also had their A- game. It just turns out yours is much, much better than even the number 6 team in the country is. All right. That's all I got for women's basketball today. Fantastic win. Tomorrow they will play, I want to say it's at, I should know this. Hold on. Let's look up the final scores here and figure out where they're going to be. So they will be in their 7th straight SEC tournament title game on Sunday in Greenville. Now, Texas has a commanding 10-7 lead halfway through the first. Well, I don't know what's going to happen there. The game itself on Sunday, no matter who wins. And remember, Ole Miss is the one that upset Vandy yesterday, kind of beat the brakes off of them. That game the final will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time in Greenville. We don't know who they're going to play yet. We'll see. By the way, phenomenal crowd, just phenomenal crowd. Lowest ticket price to get in, $74. It's almost double what it is everywhere else except for the Big Ten game where UCLA is playing. So really, really big win there. I want to close the show and talk a little bit about this. South Carolina men's basketball has sucked all season. Lamont Paris, and we're going to bring it down a notch. Lamont Paris has been very bad. And I think I brought this up the other day, the horrible, horrible record that came up from our friends at Inside the Gamecocks. ITG, they do a phenomenal job. I hope you guys make sure you listen to them as well. Read their stuff, all that. There's so many great content creators, media, reporters, beat writers. I mean, across the board at South Carolina. I hope you guys are consuming their content as well. They're fantastic. But they put out the stat the other day where since January 1st of 2025, Carolina was 9-50. 9-50 against SEC opponents in men's basketball, men's baseball, and football. That's terrible, obviously. But today, in a game that means nothing outside of, you might have the 16th seed, you might have the 15th seed. I don't know. But in a game that means really nothing in the grand scheme of things, South Carolina goes on the road in the final regular season game of Meechie Johnson's career. And wouldn't you know it, tied up with 4 seconds left, inbounds the ball. They give him way too much space. And Meechie Johnson, dagger, with 0.7 seconds to go, hits a 3 to win the game. Guys, that game, we won't remember that game probably in 10 years from now. None of us are going to sit back and talk about the where we were when Meechie Johnson hit the buzzer beater with 0.7 seconds against another really bad SEC team in Ole Miss. But my God, man, what a competitor. What a competitor. It is definitely time for a coaching change, Jason. We'll, again, a time for another episode. And I love the fact that you're chiming in because this is it's all such good topics. And we're going to dive into it, especially after the season. I don't know how they're feeling about if they're going to keep him or not. I think everyone kind of feels like it's time for him to leave. But I do want to focus on the Meechie part because watching Meechie in that game just be the competitor that he is and hitting that game winner. I don't know what happens in the SEC tournament. I'm assuming it'll be a pretty quick trip to Nashville that they are going to play there on Wednesday. I imagine they'll be returning to Columbia by Thursday. But my God, what a win for them to go out in the regular season. That's just, it's just great. So there is that. Last but not least, now I don't know what's going on in the second part of the doubleheader. Let me pull it up real quick to be on the same. Make sure I've got this in front of me. I got pinged, or that sounds like a real boomer term, a way to phrase it. I got hit up on Twitter earlier today by a listener that brought up the fact it's man, is it should we just get rid of Palmineri now? And the Palmineri thing, again, I don't know how to. It's not working, and I don't think it's going to work. And even with the amount of resources they poured into it, it's just not been good. They won the first game against Princeton. I don't know anything about Princeton baseball. It's a great school academically. I just have to assume. I don't hear a ton about how fantastic Ivy League baseball is year in and year out. You're trailing to them for most of that game. You were able to come back and pull out a win, and they win 10-7 in game one. They are currently down 3-2 against Princeton. They have 4 hits on the day. You got out hit in the first game too. We'll see what happens. Again, this feels very much like in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. If I was hoping they would sweep Princeton because they just should be able to, regardless of how many injured players they have. But in the grand scheme of things, when we look back at this season, we're not going to look back and be like, man, it was that game against Princeton that cost us the season, and Maneri should have been out then. One of those statements could be true. Maneri should be out already because of that. But either way, we'll continue to monitor the situation, as they say on social media. That's all for today's episode, man. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Saturday. We got about 5 pounds of crawfish over here and a bunch of cold beers we're going to put down and have ourselves a great Saturday. I hope y'all have a great Saturday as well. Thank you so much for watching each and every day. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We'll have another episode. We're averaging one a day so far this month. So pretty great. Until then, guys, have a great Saturday night. Be safe, be good to each other. Go Cox.